went down there. He's got a summer camp down the way to Oneida. My dad worked in N-Acytel Station. I still go driving down there once in a while, it's just a nice drive.
I've only been there a few years, going on 5 years.
You winter down there too, or?
Yeah.
We drove down there a couple of weeks ago, near the hydro plant, or near the refinery, or I don't know which part it was, but at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, a deer walked across the road.
Yeah.
There's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's so, it feels like there's nothing there, it's amazing.
Where the hydro station was, they actually would buy hay from the farmers and feed the deer.
Oh, yeah?
So like they, I don't know how they got in there for the first place, it was like 12-foot fences all the way around. Yeah, there's deer in there. So then, yeah, Stelco and Texaco were down there too, so, yeah, just wild spots. In Brantford, where I worked in the factory, there was a vacant lot, couple acres beside us, there'd be deer in there.
Which factory were you at?
Johnson's Wax. Mr. Johnson, down Mobile.
That's me.
What's your name?
Ron Michael. Oh, you know me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Art.
Well, Melissa Brown.
Yes, I just had lunch with your mother for a while.
I'm like, I hear you talk, I'm like, yeah, you sound familiar.
Well, you guys know each other?
I was a student, when I was in, getting for university, they had a program where if your parents work there, you could work in the factory and,
Okay.
yeah,
I was a
So-
supervisor.
yeah,
Oh my God. You were a student?
I was, yeah,
Oh my God.
5 years ago, right?
And her mother and I, yeah, her mother and I just, had a picnic lunch together for retirees from work.
That was a good place for you to work.
my
though.
God.
Actually, she
Small
took
world.
pictures of the two of us, or the four of us together, or whatever.
Okay.
So she was, we did a helicopter ride together at a nice park.
Okay.
We're talking to your mom there.
That's wild, that's funny.
You were outside of Jarvis last time we talked.
Yeah, still is. Yeah.
No critters, and I did a little farm.
Yeah.
What is this?
Is it Roger? No, I'm serious.
As soon as it's such a factory in Brantford, I was like, that's crazy.
They still in Brentford too.
So yeah, I worked down by, down Homedale. So down where Hardy Carpet and all that used to be. I lived up by the General Hospital 20 years.
So when did you get there?
I still have.
How many years?
4 years ago.
So you still get exposed to cottages then?
I've never been.
Yeah.
Never had any interest in hanging out with anybody.
Well, you don't have to.
I don't just, well,
You
used
go in the off season when no one's there, it's just beautiful. Get in a boat and just take off.
I don't know, I just was there with things, so.
Yeah.
I know that everybody says they're beautiful. I got a regular cottage, just north of Goderich, so I don't want to get away with Port Albert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was last 2 weeks ago, we were out there for the weekend, so. I go up and help them close the cottage up, go up and help them clean it up, so it's all, yeah, just like that.
Are you related to a miner that's in the Jarvis area?
What?
Yeah.
That's my cousin. I have seen him for years.
I don't know him, I might find something that has been lost on the side of the road and stuff after him.
And there's Jennifer and Clint from Jarvis. I'm not sure what, if she's married or not.
Small world. 2 weeks ago, on a Friday.
This is you guys
There's
are-
animals out there now.
We've got 4 or 5 students.
Mm.
All other horses, some donkeys, chickens, we got rid of the ducks. I have mine too. She calls, my husband, I'm not sure, it's like trying to tame like wild animals sometimes, but it's not.
Yeah, I'm not sure if your mom went to or not. You did a donkey sanctuary.
She did.
Well, she went out there
Yeah,
too.
yeah, she did.
And we went on that one too.
That's cool that they do stuff like that.
Yeah. I know one of the ladies in the office, I can't remember who it was. She actually, yeah, was her charity, she volunteers there. And Dave or something. You know, probably like me, so I don't know anybody too many in the office. But yeah, she still volunteers, or is she retired here?
I guess we're just about to teach session on supplements. I'm just trying to.
You're, what, towards Hagersville?
Yeah, like you decided yours. Yeah. We started, a couple years ago, we started with the Clydesdales and, we did Royal the last 2 years. My kids love it because we stuck in the bars, so we're in the horse place, in the horse house every, at the exhibition place, there's like a big 2-story barn, it's just massive, it's insane. Where we rented an extra stall and bring our camping pots and stuff, and there was such a big like, it's hilarious, it's just wild. I mean, we don't do very well, we just go for the experience and it's fun.
I remember going through there, I went to Georgetown College, so I was living there downtown Toronto. Went with some city friends and that had never been on a farm before, I came from the farm. And going through the bars and they're like, no one watching where they're all watching where they're stepping, not worried about it. And I'm just plowing right through anything, I didn't matter, it felt like home.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's funny watching the city people, not that are, you know, I've been away from it too long, you know.
Yeah.
It does stink, but it's still not.
Well, it's funny, like, having my kids grow up in the country, like, they're so much more active and we don't do video games or tech time or anything like that, so they're just, yeah, they don't understand when, you know, they go out and do hay or help a farmer with hay or their crops and their friends like taps out after like an hour and he's like, he's not doing it, like, we're full of beans. It's funny.
I threw bills, I threw for several farmers, plus their own.
Yeah.
You know, I remember, you got many lakes and like horses and that. Not exactly riding ones, but, just, you know, ponds, skied on the creek and out of the ponds all the time. We were never in the house.
They're busy.
Yeah,
Yes.
because of disease. Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of differs.
Yep. This reputation. I think it's, yeah. Is that something we do? Some people want to do this. No, I think he's in the same. He tells me the only one that goes through.
And we do a phone call back from my Amish friend who has a community phone, so my phone rings like a bell.
It's like, you know,
They have a phone
you can run down.
in the middle of the street, in the middle of the block. He has his phone timer, she uses it, he
Right.
talks it up.
Yes.
I'm trying to get my horses in, get their show shoes going, so. I got a girl, he takes when he gets to it, so. Different speed of
Yeah, I
life
asked
out
him a
there.
lot of questions.
Hard to find,
I follow a lot of farmers on
Blackstone,
Twitter.
yeah, I have to jump into him, like I can't get someone to come to me, I have to take them.
I had a buddy who's been retired a couple of years now, 2 years now, he used to travel.
Yeah.
Can't swing a hammer anymore,
Oh,
so.
yeah. Like, it's so interesting, it uses your body, like, the guy who does mine, he's,
I don't know, we never had
he's
plastic
65, but he does them in stocks, he's super gentle. He's not into people being rough with animals, but he's good with them.
He's been trampled several times, it's just part of the job, he's been a farrier, so.
It's only
Yeah.
Google
But
tobacco.
he's like, he's shorter than me, he weighs less than me, and I would not wanna tangle with him in the dark, oh my gosh.
That would be our-
An army of children and grandchildren, and he's traveling.
I guess, yeah. All right, I'm not sure why this is a, I have some hangups here, but, so I'll just have to. So I gotta get this lesson, so. All right, I'll just have to not use that one. All right, so we're gonna be talking about supplements, right? So in supplementation, you have to understand a little bit about the body. So this is not, we're gonna do, it's more fun. I mean, I could list, NAC is used for this, and CoQ10 is used for that. But if you understand a little bit about how it works. He's going to be more like interesting. You can get down to some of the details. So let's start with what happens. So a lot of times in medical school, a lot of doctors don't end up getting a lot of chance to do nutrition. So we're going to start a little bit with some nutrition, some basics. If you have any questions, stop me, because it's better that you learn and we're thorough than just rushing for information. So what are the three things that the food groups that we're eating that gives us, nutrition and energy that we need? What are the three basic groups?
Protein?
Yes. So you eat, right? And you're eating protein, right? That goes into the mouth, right? And into your digestive tract, and then through your stomach, it goes into your bloodstream. Right? So this is the blood. Oh man, don't tell me. These guys give me. Did you bring? Oh. There. The bloodstream. So you have some protein that's usually broken down as amino acids. So that's the mouth, the digestion. What else? Protein.
Carbs.
Carbohydrates. Carbs. And I heard fats. Right? So these are the main three energy sources that we use. Those enter from the bloodstream where? Through after the bloodstream. They're in the blood already. They've gone through the digestive system. They've gone through into the mouth, into digestion, past the digestion. We're at the kind of down to what level now are we talking after it goes through the cellular level, right? So these have to then go into your cells. So this is your cell. And there are some reactions that happen to allow for glucose or fat to enter the cell. The cell, inside the cell, right, this is the cell. There's the cytoplasm. Right, it's the stuff inside that, everything floats around on. From the cell, there's certain areas in the cell, an organ in the cell, that produces all the energy. That's mainly responsible for the fuel and power of the cell. What is that? Does anyone know? Was it? Yes, the mitochondria. So there's going to be lots of other things in the cell, but we're going to focus on the mitochondria, because the mitochondria is so essential for the health of the cell and for the health of every organ in our body, our overall health. So here is now the mitochondria. Okay, so it's not this big, but I'm just showing you. Because we're going to be focusing on it. Okay, so these proteins are going to come in. They're going to come into the cell, cytoplasm. This is a membrane. It's a fatty double. It's called a double lipid bilayer. So the mitochondria has its own. So it's all the way around. They're big, and so we're going to make it. Right, all like this, and then it also has another layer, and it goes like this. Okay, this is also a bilayer. Okay. So there's two in the mitochondria. There's two bilayers. This is the outer, and then there is an inner matrix. Okay, so there is an outer, this is the inner matrix, there's an outer bilayer, and then there's an inner membrane. Okay? So let's anything a little different color, so that is going to be confusing. Yeah. These are actually, you can kind of pretend these are little lipid tails. They're made of fats, and that's going to be a different lesson because they have a very, very unique usage. All right. All right. So when energy comes in from when one of these sources comes into the body, then it needs to cross into the mitochondria for energy. Okay, so energy is produced. The most basic building block of energy is ATP. You guys have heard of ATP? What is ATP? Who doesn't know? Whoever knows can tell me and I'll describe it. Whoever knows, give me some feedback on the play. You've heard of ATP, right? ATP is the power that all our muscles use, each cell uses to produce energy. So it stands for adenosine triphosphate because it has 3 phosphate groups from phosphorus, from the mineral. So usually it's in the form of adenosine diphosphate. Di means 2, and to make it adenosine triphosphate, 3 phosphates, it needs to add another phosphate group. That's where the energy of every cell comes from ATP. We need ATP, right? So when you heard the word ATP, we're talking about energy. So how do you produce ATP? That's the whole dilemma, because mitochondria needs to produce ATP. If you don't have ATP, the cell doesn't function properly. It's not able to be healthy. It also doesn't allow for the balance of different minerals in each of the cells. It also doesn't allow the cell to do things like signal other cells on what to do, to grow, to die, become different, right? So the mitochondria has to produce this ATP for the cell to function properly. So when proteins, carbs, and fats, they go into the cytoplasmic cell, right? Then they enter the mitochondria through a very specific process. This process has these proteins. Proteins are usually these like structures that are in this lipid layer. Lipids are fats. The membrane is soft. All right. So proteins give it some structure, and they help for things to go in and out of the cell, out into the mitochondria too. So one of these, for example, has a name called the carnitine shuttle. It helps certain things get into the mitochondria. Other times, the cell allows for sugars, like carbohydrates, to break down and enter the cell through diffusion. All right? And there is sometimes reactions that happen that take place for the cells to bring carbohydrates into the cell, into the mitochondria, the mitochondrial matrix. So when these carbohydrates come into the cell, there is a reaction There's a reaction that is when there's air, the air allows for those carbohydrates. What are carbohydrates? Or even fats? They're carbon, right? There's carbon, and there's hydrogen, right? And then sometimes there's other groups associated. But these are the things that we're breaking down for energy. So how do we break them down for energy and get ATP? When they enter the cell, they're into a form that's usable from their bigger food form. All right, and that is broken into something. If you're interested, I'll tell you the name. Otherwise, it's not necessary to know. But it's called acetyl-CoA. Right. So it's a form of carbohydrate that is used now in the mitochondria to produce energy. So the carbohydrates that is in this form has something called electrons. You know what electrons are? Who knows what an electron is? It's a negative charged particle that carbohydrates and fats and these carbon and hydrogen bonds have within them. Okay, so and we'll call it E negative. They're small, negatively charged ions, all right, that basically carry lots of energy. So think of those as like when they're bouncing around, they're like sparks, right? They're sparks that have all this energy that is hard to control. And all of the reactions of energy that we try to harness energy from are basically reactions from electrons. These are called redox reactions. Redox reactions are a reaction of reduction, reducing, and oxidation. Okay. So who knows what reducing and oxidizing means? And you can use it in your real, if something in a real, like I know what is it to be something oxidized. You might know from like what was that?
Breaks it down.
What for what kind of example are you thinking?
I'm thinking of metal.
Right, for like rust or something, right? Yeah, and that's probably what you were guessing. Right. So what oxidizing and reduction means is when an element has an electron, when something pulls that electron away, then that thing that pulled it away becomes reduced. Why does it become reduced? Because an electron has a negative charge, right? So when the electron goes from something to another thing with a negative charge, it becomes reduced. See, you follow that, right? What happens to the thing that the electron got snatched away from? It becomes oxidized. The reason they call it oxidation is because oxygen is usually what, especially originally, what they thought always snatched these electrons away. And it's not complete snatch, sometimes just a bond. So for like rust, oxygen binds to that metal and that electron is not gone, it stays with the oxygen and it forms an oxide. And now you have oxygen, air inside the metal. That's why it becomes puffy, right? There's more molecules of something other than the pure metal inside. So that's how we have rust. Similarly with when you burn something, right? You have carbons, a hydrocarbon, and anything with carbon in it, and it burns. The electrons are taken with the oxygen, right? You need oxygen, you need air in a combustion engine, right? You have air that comes in, you need oxygen. Why? Because that oxygen allows for that heated electrons, those sparks, and it takes them and then it produces heat. Yeah? Same thing is happening in our body. Those electrons these have these electrons. And the negative electron needs to be balanced with a positive proton. So the H's are protons. They're positive, and the electrons are negative. But inside our body, when we take these fats and proteins, we're not going to talk about proteins actually, because the proteins we don't want to use them as just energy. We want our proteins to be spared in our body. We want it to build. Instead we want to burn our fats and carbohydrates. So we're going to try to extract our energy from our proteins and in a healthy way. To be healthy, we want it from our fats and our carbohydrates. So these electrons, when they're being taken from our foods, we don't want them to spark and cause a fire. Because if they end up getting out of control, we do produce heat. Actually, we do produce heat, right? Because when these reactions are happening, some heat is produced, but we want to minimize that. We want to minimize it and lock it into something that can be useful somewhere else. That's ATP. All right, follow, right? If you don't follow, just tell me, because I want everyone to understand this. This is something to be understood. It's not like some like textbook thing that you guys have to memorize. So now these electrons and hydrogens are the things that are being produced inside the mitochondria. But how is it that we can take them in a safe way without them sparking and forming too much heat? So the first thing that happens is that they're taken and when there's air, when there's oxygen, it's called cellular respiration. Aerobic with air, cellular in the cell, respiration, breathing. So these reactions, what they produce is electrons, they produce hydrogens, they produce, because there's carbon and H, right? They produce carbon, and because of the oxygen, it produces CO2. That's what we breathe out. So CO2 gets released. The electrons, they're available for energy. The hydrogens are available for energy. And at the end, it'll produce water, H2O. Okay. So what happens now to these extra electrons and hydrogen? They can't just be floating around. Okay, so far so good, right? So this is how our cells breathe. This is where our CO2 comes from. This is where we breathe out. This goes back out into the blood. These electrons and hydrogens get paired with things that are called that are molecules that hold these charges. Two of them, just two that are very important, are NADH. Okay? NAD is a molecule. I think it's like nicotinamide, adenosine, something. All right? And the other one is FAD. Flavin, adenosine, something. Right? But what's interesting is these molecules are made from vitamins. They need vitamins to be in the form to hold these, to be carriers of these extra H and electrons, extra proton. So this is why we need our vitamins, because at the molecular level, at the mitochondrial level, people say, why do we need vitamins? What's, where are they becoming useful? They are what makes the electrons and hydrogens, these molecules, capable of holding. They allow the molecules capable to hold these charges and to take them to different places. All right. So if you end up having a lot of carbohydrates, people call it empty carbs. What have you heard about empty carbs? What's an empty carb? Empty calorie, huh?
Apparently they're bad for you.
Yeah, apparently they're bad. Why are they bad for you? Why?
Not nutritious, they're just cause
They don't really have any vitamins and minerals in them.
Yes. So you have
But they're the best.
they're the most tasty. I love my croissant, right? So what happens is that when you have a lot of carbohydrates and they enter into the mitochondria, the molecules that are NAD, for instance, NAD, F, so it's niacin, let me get you the actual name. I don't even remember the names. I didn't even write it. I guess it was that and not useless. No, here it is. Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. And the other one is flavin adenine dinucleotide. Flavine is from riboflavin, which is vitamin B2. Nicotinamide is from niacin, it's vitamin B3. And there are a lot of these like them. So when you have empty calories, you have the carbohydrates, but then you don't have the vitamin that's needed to carry parts of the molecules that have the energy. Does that make sense? That's the very important reason of why we take supplements, to allow for these at the molecular level to have these. Oftentimes they're cofactors. Okay, they're cofactors and coenzymes that take an enzyme that has a function that uses a cofactor to do a task. Think of it like the enzyme, the protein is the worker, okay? And the cofactor or coenzyme is the tool they're using. Think of it like that. So these guys, NAD and FAD, they're the tools. And they're made of what? Vitamins. Yeah, vitamins. So and specifically the B vitamins. So the B vitamins are used at the molecular level to carry, they're tools for the proteins to do their job. Yeah? Okay. So, now, let's say once your carbohydrates come into the mitochondrial matrix, past the second layer, and they enter into that matrix space. Now let's see, from the things that we have NADH, we have FADH, we have electrons, we have hydrogens, right? That's what all of the carbohydrates have been broken down to. That's, if you're interested, it's called, it produces something called the Krebs cycle. Not particularly necessary, but you studied this before, and you've heard this term, I can see. But that's where the Krebs cycle, that's where it breaks down some of the carbs. But what happens after that? You have all these electrons, you have all these H's. No. There's something that's called the electron transport chain. This is a really interesting stuff. It's right here. It's on the inner mitochondrial membrane. Okay? It's like a chain of proteins and carriers that shuttle the electrons. The electrons are like sparks, right? They have this high energy that they're basically our energy needs to be harnessed. So, the NADH, and it has a bunch of other hydrogens too, they have hydrogens floating around on the inside space as soon as the carbohydrates are absorbed. Are you following? Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. If you don't follow, just tell me. I want this to be like everyone understands. And then you have these electrons. So the electrons, what they do is the electron transport chain picks them up. All right? And the electrons, they go from here to this one, carry to this one, carry to this one. They go down from high energy to lower energy. Each next carrier of the electron, it takes it from a high energy state to low energy, to lower and lower. And while it drops energy, does the body just let that energy go? What What do you think?
I would probably use it.
It uses it. There is some loss, heat is produced, but it uses it. And what does it use? Because the electron and the hydrogen are opposites, right? So it's able to use the polarization. And what that does is, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna make it into like a slightly bigger example. Can you guys see that? As soon as the electron goes down, it basically uses that polarization to drive a hydrogen from the matrix into the space between the two membranes. Okay? So what happens, what do you think happens when in between the two membranes, every time you have electrons passing, you have hydrogens piling up on in between. It's not in the cytoplasm, it's not in the cell, it's not in the inner matrix, it's in between two membranes. What happens? What is happening when you have too much hydrogens, positive charge, forming in a particular area? What do you think might be happening?
They're repelling each other too.
Well, the electrons are safe. They've gone down to the chain, and then they're going to go down here, and they're going to bind with some of the hydrogen, and they're going to form H2O. So where the electrons are, they've been safely, their energy has been extracted, and they're being used to pump hydrogens into the space in between.
So then those hydrogens are probably going to exit that space and into the cytoplasm.
They're going to what?
Probably exit that space and into the cytoplasm.
So they're bound. There will be some escape a little bit, but generally speaking, these membranes are preventing the hydrogen. They're preventing the hydrogen, they're trapping it. So what do you think happens? What do you think will happen when
Carbon, don't you?
what was that?
It's gonna latch on some carbon?
There's not there.
Okay.
The carbon that goes in here, the only thing being pumped into into that area. When you have a positive charge in one area, what's happening? What are you forming? Forming a battery. Yeah, it's a battery. You're having your cell in between the mitochondrial layers is forming a positive gradient. There is a proton gradient. It's like a flood. It's like a dam. A dam is being formed in between. These hydrogens want to get back into the matrix. They want to get back, and there's all the stored energy. So that's where the magic comes in. So we'll make this into. This is the matrix layer, the inner layer. And these are the electron transport proteins. And then there is something here. Tube. Okay? These hydrogens are on the side. Right? These are the these electron transport, and they're carrying electrons that are going down this little mechanism, forming all these hydrogens outside, right? They're coming back through. What happens is they have all this potential energy sitting on one side of the membrane, and this tube allows for hydrogen to come in. And then they rush through it. And that causes a force, just like a waterfall, right? With water coming down, and then you can use that for energy. This particular thing is called ATP synthase. What does synthase mean? Synthesis. What do you think it might mean? Synthase.
Just a reaction.
What does synthesis mean?
Either making or building.
Yeah, making or building something. That's right. So this particular synthase is like a turbine. It turns, and in that turn, ADP, which is adenosine diphosphate, it's a two phosphate group, this machine adds energy and makes it into ATP. 3 phosphates, another phosphate is added on to the ADP molecule. To ADP, it needs power, right? It's added on to ATP to become ADP to make ATP. That is how our bodies convert electrical negative electrons into usable power. They make ATP by turning a turbine, by making a dam on one side of the mitochondria. I think it's very fascinating. I'm in love with the process. I just I actually, none of my teachers actually even taught like this. They just thought, oh, ATP is used for this, mitochondria makes. But this breakdown actually, I like to see where are the vitamins and supplements and the different supplements that we're going to talk about come into play. But you can only understand that if you understand the process. Otherwise, it becomes too foreign.
So tell me how,
Yes.
the digestive system,
Yes.
because of the acids in the stomach and whatnot, how can it break down into the cell? Like, doesn't it destroy part of whatever?
Oh, I see. So you're asking the question is, when you eat, how does these proteins, fats, and lipids, fats and carbohydrates break down and come to the blood and into the cells?
Yeah, because they're saying now that our food isn't nutritious like it was back in the day. And
Yes, yes.
so now what are we really getting and what's actually getting into this?
Okay, so the question of how much we're getting nutrients out of our food, and because there's not much, sometimes nutrients left in the soil. So that's a separate discussion, because on nutrition and nutritional value of the foods. And the process of digestion has many steps, but the stomach acid and then the different, like the pancreas and the small intestine have different molecules that are secreted that help to break down the proteins and the carbs and the fats into more smaller building blocks. And those enter into the blood. And so they're floating around in the blood as carbohydrates or long chain fatty acids or carbohydrates or proteins. And then those enter into the cell because there's sometimes on the ends of cells, there's markers that they basically allow for the cell to absorb these things from the blood. Like for instance, insulin allows for cells to absorb carbohydrates into the cell. But that's a separate process. So we can't talk about that because what we need to understand is supplements and how they work is they work at various different levels. Like for instance, mitochondria.
Like pets, what is a good supplement then? Because
yeah, so we're going to go into it, but I want to explain that supplements work at different levels, right? So we're talking if you want to talk about supplements like NAC that she kind of brought something up, so I wanted to focus on areas that have to do with that. Understanding energy production, and you have to understand mitochondria. And so once your digestion is done and you go into the mitochondria, then you'll understand how the cell can function. And that cell, if it's not functioning, that's where autoimmune conditions come from.
right.
That's why autoimmunity oftentimes is linked to fatigue, right? People have energy problems because the mitochondria is not working properly.
Right.
All right. Now we could talk about other supplements that work on digestion. That a person is having gas and bloating, they may not have stomach acid properly. Those are different supplements. But I'm talking about supplements that have to do with this energy production because a lot of conditions have to do at the cellular level. You're using you're not just using as some herbs are mucilaginous. They help to coat the top of the digestive tract. All right. That's a good focus. That's a general focus. But a lot of the herbs are understood at this level. But if you look at the molecular level, the mitochondrial cellular level, then we have to understand some cellular biochemistry.
Okay.
So for instance, autoimmune conditions, all right? And conditions that have to do with the immune system not working properly. Most people, especially in Western medicine, our conventional approach is to say there is a problem, to stop the immune reaction. But the problem is not at the immune reaction, it's at the cellular level. So the focus should not only be, because there are some herbs that will help to regulate the immune system, but the problem, we try to focus more on the root. And the root is the cellular level. And the cell, if the cell is functioning and signaling and dying and differentiating properly, then that's where it's not causing damage to that organ. Like a thyroid is not being damaged, is not hyper-functioning or functioning at a lower level if the mitochondria are working right. So oftentimes for immune system problems, or for energy problems, or for detox problems, or for any organ working oddly, we give supplements at the level to help restore mitochondrial function. Yeah? Okay. So now you know how ATP is formed, right? ATP formation is happening from a smooth burn of these carbohydrates that go through that double layer through the electron transport chain, brings it down, and hydrogens are going up, forms that potential, and it comes down and forms ATP. All right? So what happens when things are not running properly? Okay, so now we can understand the mistake that ends up happening. So when things go wonky, this layer, this lipid layer, this membrane, ends up allowing some of the H to sneak back into the matrix. And so you're not able to produce ATP properly. That's one potential problem, right? So what do you think will happen if you don't have enough H in the gradient forming? Why does that, how does that impact your energy? If hydrogen from this inner membrane ends up sneaking back in to the matrix,
Gonna lower your energy level.
it's going to lower your energy level because you're not going to get ATP production, right? Of course, you need a little bit, because if you don't have this, then when you don't have this then you, because you all, the H here, you do need hydrogen here too, because you need it to produce water. Also, you need it to produce H2O2. Do you know what H2O2 is? Is hydrogen peroxide. Yeah, and that can be used to kill certain things. So there's an use for some hydrogen peroxide in the body as well. But you can't have it too much. If there's too much leakage, then you have low energy. So there's various areas that you can have problems with. One is leakage of hydrogen. The other is the proteins, the electron transport chain. And so if these electron transports, these cofactors, these carriers of the electron carriers are not functioning properly, then the electrons don't allow for hydrogen to go through the other side. So there's a carrier problem. All right? So that's another problem that can happen. Another problem could be the lipid bilayer, the fats that you're eating are not proper, and they mess around with the lipid layers. So the proteins could be a problem, the fats could be a problem, the leakage could be a problem. So these are some areas we have to keep in mind where we use supplements to fix some of the problems. So let's say what happens when there is one or multiple of these problems. If there is not enough transfer going on and electrons leak, and they do not complete the electron transport chain and do not pull hydrogens across into that space between the two layers. Then there are something that's called mitochondrial reactive oxygen species. Who's heard of free radicals? What are free radicals? Who knows? If we all heard about them, what are they? No, you can guess.
Maybe just like it caused damage or something, it's like extra junk.
That's right. Good. Yeah. So let me explain exactly what they are. That's exactly what we were told. And I'll show you how it actually happens. It's these electrons that end up not going through the chain properly, and then they come back. And they bind with the hydrogens that are there, and they form H2O2 too much. They form too much hydrogen peroxide, which we need to some level, but if it's too much, then we have too much hydrogen peroxide in the system. And we have too much H2O2, it forms something called hydrogen, they're called hydroxyl radicals. So these are very dangerous because what they do is they are able to, just like those sparks, those electrons, they're free electrons, they can actually spark or form bonds with your DNA. What's DNA? Who knows what DNA is? That's the nucleus of the cell. That's where all our genetic material is. And if our genes get damaged, then we can't reproduce our cells properly. Those electrons can damage the proteins that shift and do work on the membrane or on the transport chain or any function in the body. They could damage the lipid layer, the layers that keep parts of the cells separated, right? So when you have free radicals, a radical group, right? A negative charge with all this energy, it'll just spark and damage areas in the mitochondria. That's called mitochondrial, MTROS. Mitochondrial, did I write that somewhere? I wrote that. And mitochondrial reactive oxygen species. All right? And that is what we want to avoid. We do not want a lot of free radicals in our system. All right? So, let's see here. So I basically want to go now into, I want to explain this to be understood, and I want to go into the different supplements that help to solve these problems. All right?
Yes.
So, yes.
So if you have a bunch of free radicals running around,
Yeah.
if you were to eat some good food,
Yes?
could you then cancel out the free radicals?
Yes.
Or are they always going to be?
What are the good foods that people say to eat that we have lots of ways to benefit our free radicals? Huh?
Vegetables?
Yeah, but there's a name for something in it that we're always looking at. There's always this hype. It's in the supplement world. These are really good for free radicals. What do we call those? Do you guys know?
Well, superfoods.
Superfoods, yeah. But they're the name. It's the hot name. Everyone's always looking at talking. Vitamin C is this and vitamin E is that. Antioxidant. Haven't you heard that word?
Oh.
Right? Antioxidant. You must have heard it, right? We use antioxidants. Why use antioxidants? Because it doesn't allow oxidation. It doesn't allow for the electrons to be pulled away and cause free radical damage. So free radicals are canceled by antioxidants. And now you understand why it's called an antioxidant, right? Because it's oxidized. It pulls electrons away from it. And that's the central thing of all these redox reaction that causes spark damage. That's where antioxidants are being used. Yeah? So, You can take a 5-10 minute break if you want. I know everyone's probably brains are fried right now. But I don't want to get this information overload, but it's kind of fun, isn't it? And you can ask me. You can stop me. We can review it. No dumb questions. It's all good learning. And then we'll see where the different mitochondrial supplements are used to restore the balance of the mitochondria, why it affects our energy, how it solves the problems that are caused by mitochondrial reactive oxygen species. All right? All right. Take a few minutes break. Is this okay, guys? Is it too much information?
I'm good.
Huh?
I'm good when you get the car part stuff, that explains.
Yeah, because parts are nice to know. Parts are really kind of fun to know. Okay. We started a little bit late, so maybe we'll make the break small because I don't want to take too much time. But
What is it, you like over the lake today, you smoke?
Really, you can't even see it. Can't even see it.
we're studying
Look at that, eh?
supplements.
I've heard them get involved in that, and I don't remember a lot of things.
So I'm just gonna come back and then we'll do these supplementary segments.
Oh, another one that I was thinking of.
Yeah.
How about DMSO?
Oh yeah, very popular one. Yeah, you
Every
can-
time I come into something, it's like, oh, you should use it for this, you should use it for that, and I never even think of it. So.
yeah. They use it for joints and inflammation and stuff. Yeah, this is on physiology, like it's on biochemistry. So because I'm trying to cover things that are related to NAC and then to related. When the physiology is close, then it's easy to show you. And we could probably do something like that. But it wouldn't be associated with these.
I would think it would be similar.
Yeah, use them on your-
Did you say?
DMSO?
Yes. I was up early, went through this where you came back to sleep and finally called it at 5 and started cleaning. So it goes down, is that?
Can you get up and help me?
Stay right in my way though.
That's what I'd say. When she gets going, she's crying in the garage.
Oh, actually, you know, 4 hours.
All right. So, quick summary. We understand now. We eat food. Our groups are proteins, fats, carbohydrates. They enter into our cells. They go to our digestive tract. They go into the bloodstream. They go into our cells. From the cells, where are they producing all of their functional energy? Helping what does the cell do from the mitochondria that needs to keep it healthy? Go ahead, say it out.
Which is the cell.
What does a cell do to keep itself healthy? What are all the things the cell does with energy and?
Well, it's the tool that makes the hydrogen go outside to be re-released into the mitochondria to become ATP.
Yes. So it produces energy. So the cell needs energy. What else does the cell do to keep healthy? It signals. It has signals that it sends. It repairs itself. It grows. Right? It differentiates. Do you know what it means? Differentiate. So if I have a nose cell, then the cell will grow into part of the skin on my nose, right? If it's an eyeball cell, it's going to become a little different. It's going to differentiate into a cell that is made for the eye, right? So all that signaling and growth, and if the cell has not been growing properly, it dies, called apoptosis, uses energy. And this signaling and this life and growth and everything is determined by the mitochondria. So in disease state where cells are not working properly, all right, it could be a cell has a you have a growth on an organ or the skin or something, right? It's not cleaning things properly. It should have died. It didn't die. It didn't differentiate properly. That's what cancer is. Cancer is a cell that's growing too fast, and it's not differentiating. It's just a blob. It should have been, a cell that's part of your liver or something, but it didn't differentiate. It's not doing a job. It's not functioning. It's just growing. So that's a cancerous cell, right? So our cells remain healthy, functional, full of energy, and are signaling properly because our mitochondria are producing good ATP and allowing the cell to do that. So mitochondria is the superpower house of the cell. So in autoimmune conditions, in conditions where the cells, the organs, the areas that are off are not functioning properly, is because a lot of it, now not all of it, but a lot of it has to do at the cell level. Not that the immune system has to be completely revamped or blocked. The cells where the organ that's being a problem, the cells at that level need to be given the materials, the nutrients it needs to function, right? So if you don't give the cells what it needs, then the cell can't function properly, right? And where do we know all those problems can occur? It can occur at the bilayer. It can occur at the proteins. It's not the intake, the foods that we're eating. They're made from that, but these are all the places that a cell can have problems. It can happen because the hydrogens that form the battery leak back. Therefore, ATP, the energy through the ATP synthase, is not produced well enough. It could be because there's too much electrons leaking and they form hydrogen peroxide, and then that causes what? Free radicals, right? Free radicals need to be quenched through antioxidants. So these are all some of the areas that immune problems, autoimmune problems, energy problems oftentimes need to focus on invigorating, rebalancing the mitochondrial energy. Okay, so people ask me, why do I need vitamins? Right? Why do we need all those vitamins? So think of it like if the cofactors that are like the tools, remember, for the enzymes that transport energy, electrons, those sparks, and bring energy down, don't have enough tools, then you would provide those tools with the vitamins. The vitamins make up things like, as we said, NAD, FAD, right? They need riboflavin or niacin as the B vitamins to help those tools get repaired. Fair enough? So why do we take supplements? To provide a good supply of tools to the parts that are functioning in every reaction in the body, specifically at the mitochondrial level. So some people say, oh, don't take B vitamins, don't worry about it, you're just having expensive urine. Have you heard that? Mm-hmm. People say that stuff, right? The thing is that when we have a lot of carbohydrates, empty calories, or not enough the vitamins that are inside the carbohydrates or with the carbohydrates, to help those carbohydrates function, then those tools get worn out. And we need to supply them. And any place you have that carbohydrate that needs to use a tool, and that tool gets worn out, then it puts a load on that tool, right? Those are the cofactors. And those factors need to be replenished. So any area becomes a bottleneck. So it's better, this is why many times people use some higher supplement than the actual, the recommended daily intake. If we use a slightly above that, because it could be because of you don't have enough nutrients in the meal, or it could be further back. It could there's too much carbohydrates in it. Traditionally, we weren't eating so many processed carbs. We had more a bigger spectrum of nutrients, vitamins inside our soils and our foods. So then, because we don't have them, they're depleted, that we're using as supplements. And if you use those supplements and you get to the amount that you need, then you're not going to have those bottlenecks. Right? Does that?
But I'm still having problems with the digestive system here.
Okay?
Because I don't know technically, but the little feelers, whatever it is, it grabs the nutrients and pulls it down into the cells.
Into the cells, yeah?
What if they're not working, like in people that have,
Diabetes?
not necessarily,
Digestive issues.
Crohn's or,
Okay.
what do you call that one, that they're allergic to wheat, they can't gluten.
Celiac? Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
celiac,
Yep.
things like that.
Yes.
How can they get it into the cell then?
Okay. So this is a different issue, right? Yeah. There's so many right now. There's a world of issues and a world of organs that we can discuss. The reason I'm starting at the mitochondrial level is because that's the most elementary level of each cell that we have to be able to make sure it's functioning properly.
I understand.
But as we go up levels, then we're going to have to go into the lungs working properly, the heart working properly, the stomach working properly, the small intestine, the large intestine. All these things have to work well for the absorption to happen. Yes. Not only that, you can have leaks inside. You don't just have leaks inside the electron transport chain. You can have leaks inside the intestinal tract. And then you have something called leaky gut. And then you have food particles that are not digested into its smaller parts going into the blood, and those are seen as foreign invasions into the blood. And now the immune system has to attack them. So the immune system is working overtime. All different problems. We can go into all those things, but it'll have to be a different lesson. I want to start at a level of at the cellular level. If the cells are working right, then the organ that you're having trouble with it will improve. And that's why supplementation is important. When you're having certain problems, certain supplements, especially the vitamins, they act as cofactors, as tools to help the production or the function of the different proteins do their part. Yes.
So can you overtake, or does it just go right through? You take too much B3?
It all depends. Some supplements are water soluble. If they're water soluble, they'll just go through the kidneys. If they're fat soluble, then they need to be absorbed with fat, and then they can remain in the body, and you can have some overdoses in that. Yes.
So when these people are on these fad diets, like the carnivore diet and their keto diets and that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
then they're actually harming themselves because of their food restrictions.
Okay, so here's the thing. If, for example, now supplements that if you don't want to take all type of supplements, you might need some supplements, but that often happens because there's a deficiency in your diet somewhere. So now let's jump into this, and I'll answer your question with that. So you understand that supplements are important so they don't bottleneck parts of the digestive process, the cellular respiration process. Let's make it more specific. But if you have a certain restrictive diet, then what happens? Well, one of the problems is that you can have low vitamins. Some foods don't have as much vitamins. Some are superfoods. Meats, organs of animals have very high amounts of certain vitamins. And so you can get a large amount by eating a small amount of the food. Do you understand? So sometimes vegans and vegetarians will have deficiencies in some aspects of their in their nutrition because they restrict what they're eating. Fad diets also have this problem. So, for example, let's talk about what is that one? Yeah, CoQ10. Okay, let's talk about this supplement. Have you guys have heard of that? CoQ10? Okay, so CoQ10 is after the food enters into the cell. Oh, let's make this over here. After the food enters into the cell, bless you. All right, and then it goes in to the mitochondria. Right, that's the bilayer, the first outer layer. Then it goes into the second layer. There is, what did we say? There's an electron transport chain, right? You guys are following along? And then I said there's carriers that take the electrons that are going down the electron transport chain that pushes hydrogens out. Those electrons that are carried, these electron carriers, right? These little carriers, one of those very important ones is called Q. You know what that is? That is CoQ10. It's an electron carrier. So what can we see now? What can we see now in the importance of CoQ10 as a supplement they recommend for high blood pressure? How can we see that how that might be beneficial for the heart? Can we see that? The heart is a muscle. It's always producing energy. It always needs ATP. So when you don't have a carrier for the electrons to go into and be useful by the electron transport chain, CoQ10, if it's deficient, then you may not be able to produce the energy. So heart muscles oftentimes are heavy in CoQ10, and CoQ10 is found. It's actually also called ubiquitone because it's so ubiquitous. It's so available in foods. But if you restrict your diet and you don't eat much healthy food, you won't get this very important electron carrier. So CoQ10 is a very top supplement that many times is used and inside the production of ATP. So it's used for congestive heart failure, people with all types of heart problems and diseases. It's been shown to help with high blood pressure. It helps it even helps with diabetes, actually. It's helped with diabetes because it allows for the carbohydrates to be used for energy. Because carbohydrates go in, and that's how we have the energy produced by the mitochondria. If not, then it sits around and it's not being used, the carbohydrates not used properly. So now you know the use of CoQ10 as a medicine and where it comes into use for a common supplement.
But where would you find that? Like what food is?
Foods. It's actually probably available. It's probably in almost. It's why it's called the ubiquitone. It's probably in lots of meats. Probably some a lot of vegetables as well. Probably with grains as well. But if it's like very highly processed, it'll be leached out.
It says naturally highest in organ meats, beef,
See?
chicken, liver, heart.
There you go. So see, understand? So it's a vegetarian may not have enough.
It says for plant-based options, try soybeans, pistachios, sesame seeds, soybean oil.
But you'll never get as high as like an organ meat. Got it? Okay.
Like.
What was that?
Organ meat for the organ.
Organ meat, yeah, that's right, yeah. And that's why in traditional Chinese, Yeah, well, no, in traditional Chinese medicine, they actually gave, that's how they gave, if you had a weakness in your heart, they would give you, eat chicken heart, eat rabbit heart, and so they help to strengthen the organ that they do that. So this is at the cellular level, you're seeing how that works. What about, so we covered, see, it's much faster to now talk about these things because you understand. We talk about vitamin and supplementation. We talk about CoQ10. Let's talk about L-carnitine. So L-carnitine, when we had the different areas of the digestion that when you eat and food comes into the digestive tract and it goes into the blood, right? So what are those? Proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. So fats come into the cell, and then they go also into the, so that's the cell right there, and then this is the mitochondria. How do fats get into the mitochondria? Anyone know? We kind of covered, I brushed over it briefly. There's the two layers of the mitochondria, and there's some proteins here. Yeah! That's right. Did you take that note? That's good if you did. This is called a carnitine shuttle. Carnitine shuttle. So carnitine is actually what's used. Carnitine, it's not an amino acid, but it's like a molecule that helps for fats. So we're not talking about carbs now. Carbohydrates, we saw how they enter. Some of it forms into acetyl-CoA, and then it goes into the Krebs cycle, and then it forms carbohydrates. Fats are also carbon and hydrogen, but these are like long chain fatty acids. They can't just fatty acids. Long chain can't actually just enter the mitochondria. They need a special shuttle, and that's made from carnitine. So L-carnitine, L just means the place carnitine has like nitrogen and carbon and hydrogen, different things on it. The side that nitrogen is on,
L is the left.
So anyways, don't worry. I think it's too much detail. What we have is that carnitine is the particular molecule that helps fats to come into mitochondria to be used for energy. So that's why some people want to if you're deficient in it, then you're not metabolizing, you're not using your fats. You may be having a blockage in using your fats properly. So what are the usages of carnitine? It helps mitochondria to function properly. It works very closely, synergistically, with CoQ10. So CoQ10 and carnitine are oftentimes used for problems with energy. It's also very important in the autoimmune conditions. So the mitochondria have always a source of energy. If carbohydrates are not there, it'll be able to use the fats. Meat, again, contains the highest levels of L-carnitine. I think sheep muscle is probably the most. However, if you, actually the muscles and liver and kidney and brain also have a huge amount. So, it also needs, for carnitine to work properly, it has certain vitamins it needs too. So vitamin B5 is one of the vitamins that a cofactor called coenzyme A, it's another enzyme. The tool that carnitine needs, is CoA, and that's made from pantothenic acid, B5, another B vitamin. That's why I say the B vitamins, someone who eats, anyone who's processing food, energy, will need their B vitamins. It's, if you're deficient in it, yeah, then you oftentimes you can have problems in your energy, you can have problems in your heart, it won't be pumping as efficiently, you can have the cardiovascular disease or congestive heart failure, your heart not pumping fully, all of these are energy problems at a cellular level. And there's usually you'll always find supplements with L-carnitine, but I guess there's also some things that you can get with D-carnitine, which you have to avoid that, because apparently it interacts with the L-carnitine. But I've never seen a supplement with D-carnitine. Sometimes people say that this is very useful to help you burn fat, but it's actually not useful for someone who is deficient in carnitine. They may not be able to burn their fat, so it can help you if you're not being able to burn your fat. If you're deficient in it, if you're not deficient in it, then you don't need it. But oftentimes we don't know if we're deficient. So this is why that's the thing. As a practitioner, this is why if someone who's having autoimmune condition problems, muscular problems, energy problems, then L-carnitine is a good supplement to take with for instance, CoQ10, because it helps the mitochondrial level. Okay, so that's L-carnitine, helping at the carnitine shutter. Good? Which is used for helping to burn carbohydrates, right? Fats. Just checking. I'm checking if you're sleeping, checking if you're following. Yeah. I'm repeating it a couple times because, it's very specific information, but it's not, do you find it complicated? Is this complicated? Not complicated, right? It's more, I find it the mechanism is very fun to understand. All right. Then, last one we'll do is N-Acytel Cysteine, and then you can ask some more questions. And, wow, what a horrible, right? Marker, okay.
Sharpie.
Is it?
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, permanent.
You took that one here.
So, the one that you asked about, N-Acytel Cysteine. So, how does N-Acytel Cysteine work? Okay, so we had L-carnitine too. N-Acytel Cysteine is, all right, so cysteine is E-I-N-E, okay, yeah. Cysteine is an amino acid. What's an amino acid? It's the smallest building block from proteins. Yeah. So proteins are broken down into different amino acids. There are a bunch of different amino acids. Cysteine is one of them. So N-acetylcysteine, all right, it means that, so N-acetylcysteine, it has a nitrogen on it, all right? And that nitrogen is bound to this amino acid cysteine, and cysteine has a group of a thiol group. A thiol is a sulfur group. It's like S, it's a sulfur, all right? So the N, again, it only means that the cysteine is on the side that the nitrogen is on. That's all it means. So, don't worry about it, right? But it's just, so, the reason it's called N-acetylcysteine is that because cysteine alone it doesn't get absorbed properly. It's kind of unstable. So what we're after is the cysteine. But the N is just what side it's on, and the acetyl is just it's bound to something when we take it for absorption and transportation. All right? So when they say N-acetylcysteine, just cross out the N, cross out the A, but you can't take cysteine alone either. So what we're after is a cysteine. And cysteine has something that has a thiol group. So NAC, the supplement, and oh, she left. She was interesting. This. Yeah, okay. So NAC is actually NAC-SH, which is the thiol group. What happens is that do you remember in our electron transport chain, after the electron transport chain, after the electrons go all the way down and hydrogens go up and they form the gradient, the proton gradient, they can actually form water, right? But if they form MTOR, which stands for what? MTROS, sorry. Free radicals. They form free radicals. It should form H2O2, which is hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide. And that forms the horrible thing called a hydrogen hydroxy free radical. All right? So these are free radicals that are quenched by, what are they quenched by? Antioxidants. So in our vitamin and supplements, apart from vitamins, antioxidants are very important for quenching free radicals. So what is the strongest free radical quencher in the body? Anyone know about it? It's called GSH. What happened? What is it? What's part of it?
Sulfur.
So yes, the thiol, the sulfur bond. This is called glutathione.
Oh my goodness.
Have you heard of it?
Yes.
You have. Isn't it great to know now? Like, whoa! Now I know what glutathione is. Glutathione is one of the body's strongest antioxidants. It quenches. So basically, there's something called superoxide dismutase. Superoxide dismutase is what allows for these electrons to become hydrogen peroxide, and then and it's still useful for the body. If superoxide dismutase is not there, then that's where you have the production of these hydrogen free radicals, and you need a very strong antioxidant to solve that problem, which is glutathione.
So where's this NAC coming from?
So NAC, when you don't have enough superoxide dismutase and you have all these hydrogen free radicals, then NAC is the precursor to glutathione, because glutathione needs the sulfur bond. And so this SH group from cysteine is what is after when you take your N-Acetyl cysteine, it removes the acetyl group. Cysteine is left. Cysteine comes and gives its thiol group to glutathione. And glutathione is what you need as a strong antioxidant. So that's where NAC and glutathione are both very important supplements that you probably heard of. They're so useful to help replenish superoxide dismutase, helping the body prevent itself from getting damage through mitochondrial free radical reactive oxygen species.
And where do you get those?
What was that?
And where do you get those NACs?
NAC is a supplement. NAC is a supplement. N-acetyl is when you go to the store, they tell you, oh, if you have a
So it's not in a food or anything like that?
cysteine is probably part of foods, yeah, but it's an amino acid. But the whole point of the supplement, right, is, so we're not just talking about the food groups, we're talking about just supplements, how we use supplements. We're using supplements to help the mitochondria from getting damaged. So N-Acytel Cysteine is used as a strong precursor to glutathione. Glutathione is the antioxidant.
But a lot of supplements are based off of plants and food, correct?
Sometimes, yeah.
So is this a manufactured substance then, or?
This is, yes, it's a, they've made it to help to carry the cysteine group. So the
it's
body
not
can,
something that's naturally occurring.
is it naturally
It says,
occurring?
I'm just Googling, it said, it is instead found in high protein whole foods like chicken, beef, eggs, and dairy.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is available, but like the supplement is much more powerful.
Oh,
Right. Yeah.
I'm just trying to,
Yeah, superfoods, I understand. But I don't think anything will carry NAC like to this level. Even the organ meats, I don't think will have NAC to this level. We're using it as a way to replenish the most powerful antioxidant, which is glutathione.
So basically, you're saying, okay, my diet's not working, so I'm eating chicken, beef, pork every week. whatever.
Yep.
It ain't working, so therefore, that's why you're taking a supplement, is just to boost that one little area or whatnot that you may be lacking, or maybe your body doesn't make enough of.
That's right. But it can also help certain conditions, right? There are certain conditions where NAC is very useful. So these autoimmune conditions, cystic fibrosis, multiple sclerosis, lateral sclerosis. There's a bunch of these conditions that are very specific in their I guess, free radical damage. And the cysteine from N-Acytel Cysteine is very useful in replenishing glutathione, as well as helping to decrease the speed at which these conditions are developing. It's also actually, N-Acytel Cysteine is used for a very long time. It's used even for toxicity, like even the medical doctors will use this to take care of like liver damage from too much acetaminophen from, it's called paracetamol, or what do we call it? Tylenol, yeah, Tylenol. And it can detoxify heavy metals, and there's the liver that's damaged, the NAC can be used for that too. It's protective from another number of these pollutants. So NAC, you can see how it works at the level of the mitochondria, at the level of the mitochondrial reactive oxygen species. It's a precursor to glutathione. Did you catch it? I know you missed a little bit. Did you catch that? I know.
An Amish man that only gets a phone. But
I know those guys.
I'm so sorry.
I know. You have to catch it when they call.
Because I
Yeah.
never catch them again.
Yep, I know, yeah, I got it. Did you catch that?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So NAC is very important. Now, there's another interesting benefit, a side benefit, and I'll end with this one, to NAC, which is kind of cool, which I'll tell you too. So the mitochondrial benefit we've seen, benefit for the immune system, the free radical damage prevention, but NAC also has that sulfur group, right? So what's very, very fascinating about NAC is that this sulfur group, this is how it looks. So we have the N-acetyl, NAC-SH, let's call it, okay? All right, the rest of it is actually not important because it's a cysteine plus the sulfur group. So when NAC, when it's reduced, it forms a bond. And, I don't know, NAC. It forms a bond with other NACs. All right? This is a disulfide bond. All right? And these bonds, what they do, they form long strings of stable sulfur. When they're broken, then they form these open sulfur bonds that have that smell of sulfur. all right?
It's pretty stinky.
So thiol, you know how they say thiol, the thiol smell? Egg smell, right? It happens, that's why NAC sometimes smells like that a little bit. This bond is in a number of different things in the body. Hair has this bond, right? Mucus also has this bond. And its bond is mucin, right? And cysteine and thiol. So when we're sick, we have mucin, cysteine, sulfur, and then the rest of it, cysteine and mucin. That's how our mucus looks. All right? So our long, thick mucus like that you get in the cold. So when you get NAC in this form, what it can do is, this is this reduced form. So it still has this electron. When it gives that electron to this long chain, then it's electron and its extra hydrogen. Then this breaks into mucin, which is like part of the mucus, cysteine, and a thiol. And then the other one, thiol, or probably, thiol and cysteine and mucin. So what just happened? It broke, the cysteine, thiol broke, it oxidized the sulfur group into two groups. So people who are all congested and all this mucus, not only does NAC help to scavenge free radicals, it gives glutathione. Glutathione is a strong free radical, mostly available in the lungs, to strengthen the lungs. It also helps to break up all that mucus. So you can give NAC for anyone coming down with a cold who needs help in their lungs, and you're feeling run down, and you have mucus, perfect supplement to give. It helps to give the lungs a boost and break up all that mucus. And that's because of the thiol group.
So even like if you have like allergies and you're prone to being congested, that would help with your congestion.
It helps with specifically with the mucus breakdown, right? It's not just if you don't have mucus. Not only if you do have mucus, if you don't have mucus, this reaction can reverse, and it can bond and form these long chains of sulfide, and you can use them in your hair, you can use them in your nails. The body can use that thiol, the sulfur bonds, the disulfide bond.
Mucin's also a title or brand name or whatever, you see a lot, or the ones in the code section of the
Oh, is it?
of the drugstore.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, so just to recap, I think that's like a lot of information all at once, but I think hopefully what we've covered is a good understanding of why supplementation is important. So we're not bottlenecked at any stage of our our respiration, for example, where tools or cofactors are needed, which are made from vitamins. Those vitamins having not enough, if you give enough, then the body is full, and those carriers like coenzyme Q10, like NAC, NAD and FAD can be used with to have enough. They can be produced enough to carry the electrons and the protons. If you don't have them, your cellular production of energy won't be enough. The mitochondria will not function enough. The conditions that are used at the level of whatever, your rheumatoid arthritis, to your thyroid, to your autoimmune conditions that are not allowing the cells at the cellular level to function properly, which means signaling, which means growth, which means energy production, will not function fully. Whatever their role is, even if their immune function role, they won't do it properly because they don't have enough energy. They don't have enough signals. They don't have enough differentiation. So the mitochondria needs to have the full vitamins. If you have the full vitamins, you can still get into other problems. And so you can have a problem with the shuttling of fat into the mitochondria. So L-carnitine is one of the supplements that helps fat be used for that. Those carbohydrates might be okay. What about the fats? That's where carnitine comes in. At the level of the mitochondrial bilayer. Okay? And then if you have the bilayers are functioning okay, the vitamins are all right, then you could have problems with still some free radical production. And then you can use supplements like NAC, and that's the cysteine group that has a thiol on it, which helps to scavenge free radicals, and that's the use of glutathione, the precursor, or all antioxidants that can help to keep the cell functioning well. And the goal is to help the mitochondria keep running really well.
So there's also like a glutathione supplement, so.
Yep.
Was it like?
It's bypassing NAC, it's coming straight to glutathione.
So would you take them together? Could you take them?
You could. But NAC has particular other benefits, right? It's not benefiting just the glutathione. It also can be used for the mucus.
Right, okay.
So in a multivitamin supplement.
Yes.
Is that stuff all written on as ingredients?
NAC and L-carnitine and stuff. Yeah, each one will be written separately. But now you'll know what it's used for. And also, it's not just you knowing what it's used for, it's also giving an approach. Supplements shouldn't be used just as like a kind of a general, you're not sure what they're doing. Our approach for immune problems and is a targeted approach to help cells run right. We're not just trying to block the immune system. We're trying to give each cell to function well, so the immune system can, if it's signaling it to activate, then you allow it to go through its process, but the cell needs to work properly.
And are these water soluble ones or are these fat soluble?
Oh, L-carnitine probably will be fat soluble. Don't know, I haven't looked that up. N-Acytel Cysteine, I'm sure it's probably water soluble. They've made it in a form that's absorbable and transportable.
Okay.
CoQ10, I don't know, probably. I would have to look that up. But it's good to take these with food, because it's not just about the whether it's fat or water soluble. When you have food, then there's acid, and then it helps to absorb these into the body. Without food, you just don't have enough sometimes stomach acid, and you can't break them down. You can't even break down you have to sometimes the capsule, gel in the capsule. Any other questions? Any questions? Okay, I can review this stuff. I can tell you guys if there's something that you didn't understand, then we can go back to it, just to explain the process a little better.
So you're saying basically before you take a supplement, you should know what you're trying to fix.
You should know, yeah. It's being educated. Like people just take anything, right? Oh, I've heard this, I've heard that, but right, like it's like a shotgun approach, right? So you might get mosquito on the wall with a shotgun, but
But just if you're feeling tired,
yeah.
then you wouldn't know which one of these is your problem.
You won't know, right? You're right.
So you just gotta take all three just to.
You can find supplements with them all together. But as I said, for instance, like an autoimmune condition, this is kind of what I was focusing on today. Your cell will not be functioning well because the mitochondria is not functioning well. So most autoimmune conditions would take all of these together, but then there would be other things too. We need to focus. We haven't even touched on the digestive process.
Right.
We haven't touched on the different organ levels. Different organs work differently and they have different approaches. But these things are kind of building blocks that you would probably make sure you have.
You see so many in the stores, like I don't care if you go to Walmart, you walk down and just
Yeah.
shelves of the stuff, and it's like.
Which one do you take?
You see the big H walking through, and they're just carrying the big cans out, and it's like, well, These guys are brainiacs, so it's gotta be, you know, they're just thinking because the guy from the jump says to take it.
Yeah. But you know, so now you guys will know where it's being used, right? The sad thing is that you can see how useful each of the, I mean, can anyone say now that we know the biochemistry at the level that each of those things are not so essential, like each function of that cell, of the mitochondria, is not so useful? We can't. So it boggles the mind that when you go in to see your medical doctor and you're trying to get better, that they would not focus on the importance of the mitochondria running rate. It's like
Just giving Band-Aids.
yeah, they're not focusing on the most important problem. You gotta focus on the mitochondria. The mitochondria health is our health, the cellular health. And so blocking the immune system, letting it function, well, like that's not solving anything. It's like I don't know what, I mean, I know like they say there's an Arab saying that, but again, I'll translate it into what we know as Romeo and Juliet, right? Romeo and Juliet is probably the closest story. That every Romeo sings the praises of its Juliet, right? So, I mean, I love natural medicine, so I'm singing the praises of like wonderful system that helps solve problems, and I can see its benefit. But I can't even imagine how you would not approach these immune problems and these other functional health problems with this approach. I can't even imagine that you would, you know, that you could love any other Juliet, you know, that has to.
So now going back to, you said there's so many different ones out there, and fillers and whatnot. So
Yep.
how do we know what's the best ones to?
You know, there probably are fillers and other ingredients that they do to cheapen things. I mean, I've actually produced my own supplement once. I produced a supplement on fish oil, and there are so many things you have to do to make sure you have high quality, and it can get very expensive. So, and researching each supplement is hard. So my general rule, and it's not for sure a rule because someone can definitely rip you off. I think the price oftentimes dictates the quality, you know, bottom of the barrel, you know, fillers, hard to digestion is going to be a cheaper supplement. Those that do third-party testing they make sure their oils are not oxidized.
So how do you think what do you feel about muscle testing?
Oh, they do the kinesiology testing?
If a supplement is good for you.
I don't have much experience with it. So I never disregard something, or if I don't know about it, right? That would be very ignorant to say this is no good. But it's probably, I do think it's some of an art, because they do muscle testing, like they feel it, right?
Well, you can do muscle testing on yourself.
Yeah, but it's a feeling, right?
Yes, but your body doesn't lie.
But they have to have sensitivity to it.
Yes.
Right. So that sensitivity must be developed. And I've seen practitioners help patients, they put certain supplement on their body or something and they test it. And they're able to do some, understand to some extent. I never did it, so I don't know how they're testing and if it can go wrong or not, if there's any subjective things that can go on. So I'm sure that there's something to it, but I'm sure it can also be used probably with, as it can be a scam too.
Very simple example of muscle testing that anybody can use anywhere.
Okay.
So if you're
Question about muscle testing.
okay, if you're standing, say in a drugstore, where even at home, you pick up a bottle of a supplement, and you're holding onto it, and you close your eyes and you think about the supplement and ask, is this good for me or not good for me?
Mm-hmm.
If your body sways forward, it means yes, go forward.
Okay.
If it sways back, it means no.
Yeah, no,
So that's just the simplest way to practice muscle testing.
So the example is that if you didn't hear it, that a person holds a supplement and they just close their eyes and they talk to themselves and try to be in touch with whether it is good for them or not. And if their body swings forward, then it is good. If it swings back, then it's not good for them. And I think, as I said, you have to have a sensitivity to it, and you have to be in touch with yourself. There's so many factors that could make you go backward or forward. Will it be accurate? I don't know. So I can see the room for misinterpretation though. So that's why I rely on the biochemistry. I look at how things work, and if it makes sense, and then through real trial and error, then I find it more of a kind of a methodical scientific approach. I'm not knocking the person who does the other way, but it's still much more crude than understanding at the level of like where it's actually functioning. Am I right? If you know that these are the areas that this is filling, it's a cofactor, it's a vitamin, or it's an antioxidant, then it makes sense. Not to say
Yes,
that.
no, you're absolutely
that's
right.
But don't-
It's testing all the time, and people in kinesiology
Yeah.
do too as well. So
Yes.
it's a sensitivity, yes. It takes a little bit of practice, but you can do it.
Yeah.
And
No.
there's
I'm.
all different ways of muscle testing. Now it's just a simple way.
Yeah, and I've seen people put the arms down.
Yeah.
And so muscle testing, yeah, it's a world of but I think there's an art to it.
Mhm.
The science to it, I don't. Things that are science are measurable, right?
Yes.
So that's more of an art.
So these supplements are more of a long-term thing as opposed to something
Ah,
short-term?
very good question. Question is, so if you're looking at restoring your mitochondrial function, is it a long-term thing or a short-term use? You start with short-term and see how you're doing. And then, for example, I'm just recovering from a knee injury. So for a period of a year, I wasn't very mobile. I felt like I aged, just sitting around helping for my healing. So when I finally got my mobility back and started walking, then I felt like a very weak in my abilities. So I used a lot of mitochondrial, and I'm still using some mitochondrial formulas to help my stamina and my mitochondria to function better. And when I would walk and feel tense and not recover as fast, these formulas helped me for my muscles to work better. And that allowed me to increase my performance, and now I'm weaning myself off. So you have to see where you need them. Some people who once they get to a certain place and their bodies, and you have to stress your body to move it into a certain level, and then you don't need the supplements anymore. But to get to the level, you might need the supplement. Now for really long-term standing problems, right, you might need not just the mitochondria, but then you need to work at the digestive level, you need to work at the organ level. So it's science, work of medicine is many factors. There's no one answer. But to get you to, it's like a springboard, you can use it. But sometimes springboard is not enough. The body doesn't hold the balance. You need to keep doing something to keep it. All right. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm sure we'll see you guys next week. If you have anything that you specifically want to talk about, I'll keep it in mind, the DHMO, but I'm not, maybe we'll see where it goes. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
Actually supposed to be really good for like spike protein and stuff.
Hey, ladies.